Hello, it's Maria. I'm a demonstrator in Ontario, Canada, and today I want to show you a couple of cards I made using one of the items from this Sale-a-bration catalog. Sale-a-bration is on right now, and it goes until the end of this month. And it's a time where if you spend $60 or any multiples of $60, you'll get one and or more items from this Sale-a-bration catalog. Now, unfortunately, some of the items are already out of stock, but there is one item left that I want to show you. It's actually two items. It is the designer paper and the stamp that is called Wonderful World. You get that with $120 a purchase. That is before shipping and taxes. So remember that. So let me show you the paper and the stamp in person, or shall I say on camera, because if you see it in the catalog, it's never quite the same, is it? Okay, here we go. Wonderful colors. I just love the pastel, almost springy colors, isn't it? And on one side, it's kind of floral. And the other side, it's a coordinating pattern. A little simpler, it's kind of leafy, but a plainer. I don't even want to use that word, but it's not as flowery as the original side. You can see all the different colors in there. The pinks, the yellows, the greens, the purples, the whites. It's gorgeous. And the stamp set looks like this. Now, I must admit, when I got the stamp set, I thought to myself, okay, how am I going to color this? Because I really like to color. How am I going to stamp this that it's not going to look just like a big blob of ink on the paper? I don't know whether you've had the same thought or not, but I did, and I thought, well, I did come up with a solution, at least one. I can think of a couple of others, and I thought I would share it with you. So that's the reason for this video. Well, one of the cards is this one right here. And I use Starry Sky for this one. You can use any color that you see in the papers. And for the sample that I'm going to make with you, I'm going to use Orchid Oasis, which is similar, but it's a lighter purple. I'm also going to use one of the embellishments, the matte decorative dots, and I'm going to use another stamp set called Shaded Summer, which is this one, to use the thank you sentiment from that one. So let's get going making this card. Here is all the elements you need to make the card. Here is the stamp. And these are the decorative dots that I was telling you about. They're the in-color decorative dots. They're the matte ones. Aren't they gorgeous? Yeah, I love them. Okay, we'll use them. Okay, now the dimensions for all of the elements for this card will be in the description below. So the card base is, I said, Orchid Oasis, and that's layered with basic white, and followed by the designer paper. And then we have what we're going to stamp on, and a mat for that, and then the sentiment, and then a little piece of cardstock for under that. That's basically it. It's a fairly simple card. So I'm going to put that aside. All of this aside except for, whoops, this and this. I'm going to stamp the main image, which is this one, right on here. Okay, and I'm going to use Orchid Oasis. Now, if you'll notice that in the stamped image, there's variations in the color already, so you don't need to do any shading. This is just a natural. You can't really see it on the stamp unless you look carefully. It's almost like it's a distinctive, I do believe it is a distinctive stamp. And you don't want to stamp, this is a really juicy ink pad, and you don't want to go because you're going to get ink smushed all over. I'm just going to put it a little bit to the side here, move my ink out of the way. Last thing I need is to get ink on my clothes or the rest of me. And you don't want to be pressing down real hard because that'll spread the ink out and give you lines around your stamped images. Perfect. Look at that. And I didn't even press. Just kind of let it and leave it there for a couple of seconds to let the ink absorb in the paper. Perfect. All right, now where's my thank you? Here it is. And notice that with the big stamp, I took my ink and I went down onto the stamp. I do that with larger stamp, but with the smaller one, I can actually do it directly onto, and then look to make sure that your stamp is inked up, and then stamp down and no pressing. There we go. Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to close my ink pad up. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'll just leave it a second to let it dry, and it usually dries quite quickly. And I'm going to get my Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to add this to the mat. Now you can use Tombow or any other glue that you have. There we go. And I'm not going to add anything to this just yet. Now we'll get the rest of the elements of my card. Now I have little pink Post-it notes to remind me what the dimensions are. But they, like I said, they will be written in the description below. This is the designer paper. And usually what I do is the designer paper is 1/4 of an inch smaller all the way around from the base. This one is a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch. I wanted a larger margin. I think it's about 1/2 inch. Then I can add this to here. Actually, what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to use dimensionals. I hope I brought my dimensionals. I'm sure I did. Oh, I did. I'm going to add this to here with the dimensional. So that means I'm going to add this to the card front first. This Stampin' Steel is very sticky. Okay. Now we'll get some dimensionals, put them on the back. My pick tool, which kind of got a little bent. I bought another one, but I can't find it. There we go. We'll just put it in the middle. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to just lay this down here. And this I will just, oops. There we have the front of the card, with the exception of the embellishments. There we go. Now we'll do the inside. I'm not going to stamp anything on the inside. Basically, the purpose of this video is just to show you two different ways that you can stamp these images of the stamp set. There, that's one way. My sample, Starry Sky, and Orchid Oasis. Now the other way, the other stamp that I wanted to show you is this one. What do you do with that one, huh? I don't know. Well, I tell you, I really had to think about this one. Let's get my card. This is the card that I came up with. It's a little bit more involved, but I just wanted to show you a different way, because if you stamped it with one color, you would just get one color on the paper. So if you wanted a red rose, then the leaves would get red. And yes, you could stamp just the rose and just the leaves. It's finicky, but you could do that. Let me just show you another way that's maybe a little bit easier. Okay, where's my... There we go. I'm going to use Garden Green and Melon Mambo ink. And I'm going to use different embellishment. I hope I brought them. Well, if not, oh yes, of course I brought them. Here they are. The Glossy dots, one of my favorite ones in the new catalog. Oh, I better take them out of here to show you. They are so pretty. Look at that. Whew, almost blinds you. Okay, now this one has a rich Razzelberry base. Rich Razzelberry. And then I use Very Vanilla with it. And I have some rich Razzelberry and a frame, and I'll show you how I did that. And then I have another die cut, and then I have another die cut. And I'll show you how I did those. You know, these are all little pieces left over, just to show you how I did that. The scalloped one is from Stitch So Sweetly. The oval frame is from the new dies. Whoops, they're called Fabulous Frames. And I used this one. And I used this one. Now this one was the one that I used for the outside frame, and when it's die cut, it die cuts into two pieces like this. And I'm using both these pieces. And the oval, when it die cuts, it also die cuts in two pieces. So it die cuts the outer frame and then an oval. So I ended up I wanted to die cut just the oval, but I ended up just using the gold. I took this out and then just put it on top of here. I was going to do something else. That's why I dyed it twice. Hold on a sec. Okay, pussy. Alrighty. So these pieces I don't need. This I will need. I'll put those aside. Okay, I'm going to stamp on here, And then I have a scrap piece of paper, and you'll see the reason for that shortly. Now my stamp. Here we go. I'm going to stamp the entire image. Make sure that I'm on camera here. I'm going to stamp my entire image in garden green. Okay, good. Now I'm going to just clean that. And I'm going to stamp the entire image in Melon Mambo. But on a different piece of paper. There. Now, I take my scissors, which are here, and I cut out my rose. I think some of you are having an aha moment. I think you know what I'm going to do with this, don't you? Yeah. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this right to here. I could have cut that a little more around the edge, but you get the idea. And then I take my edge, my oval, and then I add this to this piece, and I'm going to use dimensionals for this. And now I'm going to add this to the front of, the frame to the first layer of the card. Now, in my sample, I actually use dimensionals for that, but I think I'm just going to use some of this and just put it, now I used Tombow, except it was out of stock there for a while, and so my order hasn't come in yet, so I probably should have used point. You should use a silicone mat, and that wouldn't be happening. Okay, now it's sticking to my fingers. This is probably the hardest part of the whole card, is getting this little frame on. I think if you do one end, there, let's start at one end and then move over. And then you can just add this. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this with dimensionals. And I think you'll like that. I did it a different way in my sample, but you know, sometimes you get different ideas when you're making it over again. Yeah, I like that. See, what I did in my sample is I raised the frame, but in this one, the frame is flat and I've raised the center. I like that better. Okay, now I just add this to the front. Now, I did not put a sentiment with this card. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But what's important is just how this card is put together, how these stamps are stamped. The base is rich razzleberry, in case I forgot to tell you that. So that is, of course, we have to put our embellishments on. Where did they go to? Over there. There. So there we have my sample and the card we just did. Which one do you like better? Okay, so the purpose of this video was to demonstrate two different ways that the images from the stamp set Wonderful World, using the designer paper that coordinate with it, both of which are contents of the Sale-a-bration catalog, which you can purchase with $120 worth of products. And it was to show you two different ways they could be stamped. This was one way, direct inked paper, and the other way was stamping two different ways. There we go. If you have any questions, leave them below. Thank you. Bye.